Okay, welcome to today's event, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com. I'm pleased to be able to host today's session. It's a look at four very different and compelling solutions in the Dynamics 365 customer engagements slash CRM space. And we are going to jump into it very shortly here. I just want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping as we begin to let you understand the format and how you can get involved. So as we begin here, and I know people are still coming in, but we do encourage your questions today. You can enter them really at any point as you watch today's session. Look for the Q&A block in the lower part of the right side of the WebEx window. Q&A is the best place to put your questions to make sure we get to them. We will be leaving time at the end for that Q&A, and we'll be asking questions of all our presenters. We do, speaking of presenters, we have four great presenters today. Each of them will have 12 minutes to speak to you and educate you on their organization's solutions and how they fit into a CRM solution plan. We are going to, and you can sort of see the order here, we're going to have presenters from Avalara, Experlogix, Xpertdoc, and QGate. They'll each introduce themselves, obviously. We're about to jump right into that. So again, please do ask questions throughout. If you don't see the Q&A, look for the question mark icon in the upper right. That should enable it for you. Otherwise, I think we are ready to begin here. So our first presenter is Kate Kenny from Avalara, and Kate, I'm going to open up your access. Make sure that your line is open as well, please, and the floor is now yours.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. It looks like you're still sharing, Jason.
I'm just going to try that again then, Kate.
Okay, thank you.
Did that work?
I'm still seeing our presenters. Am I looking at the, let me see if I can, yeah, I'm not able to share just yet. Oh, actually, here I am. Thanks, Jason, okay. And good morning, everybody. And I really appreciate everybody joining today. Looking forward to telling you a little bit about the Dynamics 365 for sales solution that Avalara offers. As you can see here, you can contact us at microsoft@avalara.com if you want more information after the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and give you a demo today, but I want to first start just giving you a brief overview of the Avalara company. So Avalara has a significant experience in sales tax. We've been a cloud-based automation solution for about 18 years, and we have over 20,000 customers today. We integrate with over 600 e-commerce, billing, order management, and retail systems, including the Microsoft Dynamics suite of solutions. And so if you're using another platform, of course, you can be fully integrated with Avalara Tax as well. We've proven our ability to deliver customer success, and we process about 5 billion tax transactions per year. And we manage about 25 million exemption certificates, and we have about 18 billion in remitted taxes every year. So I'm going to talk about the three components of the tax compliance solution that we have that's integrated. The Avalara Tax is what we're going to talk about today, and Avalara Tax determines and calculates your sales taxes. Inside of your systems, you're fully integrated to the Avalara service in the cloud. So Avalara, at the point in your business processes where taxes are needed, such as invoicing or e-commerce checkout, Avalara Tax automatically calculates your taxes. And Avalara looks at the transactions information and returns that into your source system, into the native text fields. Avalara constantly monitors and updates tax rates, rules, and boundaries to make this compliant for you. Cert Capture is the next component. And Cert Capture is where you can manage your exemption certificates. Exemption certificates are required for your customers when they make purchases from you as a tax-exempt entity. For example, if they're buying your products for resale or if they're a government entity, and there's lots of other exemption reasons. CertCapture allows you to manage your certificates, both the images as well as the data, so you have complete control over your documents. And there are built-in workflows to manage the certificate requests via email, or you can do an email campaign, and your customers, all they have to do is click on a link to provide their certificate information online for you. And of course, CertCapture is integrated with the Tax solution. And so when you're processing your sales tax transactions, if you have an exemption certificate on file for that customer, the transaction will automatically be exempted based on that information in CertCapture. And then finally, the last component is our managed return service. We file your tax returns when it's time to file. All you need to do is review a liability worksheet report based on the tax data that came from Tax into your system. And then returns will prepare and file your returns and submit your payments to the appropriate jurisdictions. So we really base our value proposition on these three pillars. For accuracy, we reduce the risk and automate your compliance. For efficiency, we save time and lower your ultimate costs. And then, of course, we're integrated in with your systems, and we deploy quickly without any business process disruption. Companies now outsource tax compliance, and the reason is simple. After you spend all of that time and money trying to do your tax compliance manually, auditors still tend to find errors. So many are spending a lot of money on compliance, but not really reducing their risk. So doing tax calculation in-house, it makes as much sense as doing payroll in-house, really. So, and just a quick quote for you, any efforts spent on sales and use tax compliance and related activities are non-revenue generating. So Avalara lets you focus on your core products and your core solutions and your core company business, and we'll do the compliance for you. So we've been a Microsoft partner for about 14 years now, and we have over 800 customers using our Dynamics connectors. And we integrate with all of the Dynamics ERPs, CRM, etc., as well as we work with a lot of the ISV integrations. So this brings the whole thing together so that you can have one consolidated tax solution. So let's show you a little bit about the Dynamics 365 environment and a little bit about Avatax. So within Avatax, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your company structure. And within your company structure, you're going to tell us a little bit about your company so that we know where you are required to collect and remit taxes, as well as some additional information that could be valuable to you. So you can see here, this company has a nexus requirement, or a requirement to collect and remit sales taxes in about 7 pages of jurisdictions, as well as some Canadian regions, and we also offer global tax calculation. Once you connect your Avatax environment up to the Dynamics 365 environment, you can see here that this account ID matches to what's set up within the settings section of your Avalara Avatax extension. So when you click on here, you can see that this account is connected. Once you connect your account, all of the functionality is available. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how you set up the service in order to calculate taxes. So the first thing I'm going to set up is an account. So I'm going to go ahead and look up an account that we're going to go ahead and play with today. And you can see in here that this customer type is now taxable. You can also mark your customers as exempt directly within the application, and you can associate a reason for that exemption directly in the application as well. The second thing you can do is you can associate a taxability code to your products. Now, taxability codes are really important because they drive the taxability by jurisdiction. So, for example, if you have a tax, if you're selling clothing are non-taxable in New Jersey, or and they are subject to a threshold within New York. So you can set up your products to be associated with tax codes. So you can see here that I've marked this product as taxable, and I've associated an Avalara Avatax tax code to this. So let's go ahead and enter a quote. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in a new quote just as I normally would. I'm going to name this quote Test, and I'm going to select my price list just like I normally would, and I'm going to select my customer, AdventureWorks. Now, you'll notice here that nothing really changes with your current business process. You still go through the same process that you would today by associating your addresses and saving your information. Now, you'll notice here that there's two additional buttons up at the top of the screen. One is for validating your address, and one is for calculating tax. So you can validate your address just to be sure that your address is correct within the service. And you can see here that the addresses have been validated. And you can either accept those validated addresses, or you can hit cancel and keep the address as entered. In order to calculate tax, there's obviously a reason to have a product associated with this order. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in some product onto my quote. And there's some additional information I need to fill in on my product, just like you normally would in your own environment. And then as soon as you enter that product, you can go ahead and calculate tax. Oh. Uh-oh. I'm going to go ahead and remove that product, and I'm going to add another one. And I'm getting an error message calculating tax, and I wasn't getting that this morning. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to try a new quote here. And actually, maybe I'll go directly to invoice so I can show you a little bit about how this corresponds with the information within your Avatax solution. So once again, I'm going to name everything. I'm going to add my price list. And I'm going to go ahead and select my customer. And then I'm going to go ahead and look up my addresses. Once I save that, I can go ahead and add my products. I'm going to go ahead and add in the additional information that's required for these products. And I'm going to calculate tax. And you can see here that Avalara calculates the taxes, and it puts it as a line item on here, but it also enters it into the native tax fields so that you have access to your tax calculation. And finally, what you can see inside of your Avatax solution is the tax calculation that occurred. So I think I'm out of time, so I really appreciate you bearing with me through that error message, and you can see that Avalara does calculate this sales tax on your quotes, invoices, and orders within the Dynamics 365 for Sales environment. Thanks, Jason. I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Kate. And we are going to move on to Gwen Golden of Experlogix. And Gwen, I'm going to change over presenter privileges to you.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. And Gwen, you're sounding a little quiet, quieter than before.
Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Gwen Golden. I'm with Experlogix, and today we are going to be talking about CPQ. So just very briefly, wanted to let you know that Experlogix has been around for quite some time as well. We were founded in 2002, and we are certified for Microsoft Dynamics. We are 100% focused on CPQ. So that's all we do day in and day out. And we have over 275 customers using it specifically with Microsoft Dynamics. So some of you may be wondering, what is CPQ and why would I need it? So let me just kind of break it down for you. The C stands for configure. So really, when you want to configure a quote, basically put together a quote by adding different products or services with all of their related accessories and potentially in a guided selling user interface, you want to make sure that you're pricing it out based on all of the different variables that you may have to sell your product or your service, and then you want to produce a professionally looking quote. So, how does that help your company? Well, the number one thing is that your salespeople really should be spending their time selling, not doing admin work. So we want the quoting to be quick. We want to make sure that every salesperson is an expert at selling your products so that you can hire somebody tomorrow or today and have them quoting tomorrow. And then we want to make sure that what you are selling goes together. So we want to have option compatibility. So a couple things that I want to point out is that Experlogix CPQ can fit in a lot of different organizations, ranging from selling clothing to selling doors and windows. Maybe you're selling a service or you're selling some furniture. All of these companies actually have something in common, and what's in common for them is that they have complex requirements around the way that they put together a quote. So that's how CPQ is going to help. Now, when we go out to talk to companies, we often hear that they're using a lot of different quoting tools to help to put together that quote. Probably the number one thing that we hear is that people are using Excel, they're using Word, which are great tools. However, it is going to give some problems to the salesperson as I go through the demo. We also have companies that are still doing it the old-fashioned way. They're putting together a price by jotting things down on a piece of paper, in this example, jotting it down on a napkin. Some companies are still basing it on old product catalogs where sales rep actually has to pull out a physical product catalog, start flipping through it to find out how they're going to price something. And then there are the companies that are still on older solutions that are still external to their CRM to be able to do their quoting. And then the last one is what we kind of call that tribal knowledge. There's somebody or some people in your organization that have been with the company so long, they just know how to sell it. And so we always go to them to find out what we should do. Well, this becomes impractical because what ends up happening as salespeople are trying to put together their quote, and the consumer is wondering, well, how much longer is it going to take? Am I waiting hours, days, weeks to get this quote? Is it right? Is it what the customer requested? Does it make sense? Where's the integration? Manager's asking, what's my forecast? What's out there that we know that we need to be selling? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the product. And what Experlogix does, it does work directly within CRM's opportunities, quotes, and orders. So I'm going to kind of take you through a day in the life. We're going to start a new opportunity within Dynamics. And let's say that this customer is interested in adding a truck to their fleet of trucks. We know which customer we're working with, so we're going to go ahead and select a customer, and there might be a price list associated with them. We're going to save that record, and you'll notice that we get some new buttons up top which are related to Experlogix. Now in this instance, the salesperson is talking to this customer. The customer has indicated they're interested in a truck, and specifically they're interested in the EX5000. So the salesperson goes ahead and selects that truck. Now at this point, Maybe the customer is just kind of wanting a general price. You know what, I don't even know if I can afford you yet. Give me a general idea of what your trucks cost. And we can say, well, by default, you know, the way that it's configured, we're going to take a quick look here. I can sell you this truck that's going to come with this engine, this transmission. It's got some cold weather options, tires, etc. And basically, you know, it comes to a certain price. Now, in this case, we're just doing it for budgetary purposes. And so by saving this, what this is going to do is it comes back into the opportunity. And you'll notice if we scroll down, you've got all of the different line items that are associated with this opportunity. We're going to go ahead and change this to system calculated. We can now see our revenue. So now we've got that forecast. We can actually see what are some products that we're potentially going to be selling. But now the customer actually is interested in getting a quote. So we're going to come down into the quotes area, create a new quote. Now what it's doing is it's pulling all of the information into the quote record. At this point, if we just need to print it, we can print it. Okay, but let's just say that the customer, now that they've, you know, gotten a little bit more interest, they see that it's within their budget, they want to go ahead and configure it based on their needs. So we're going to relaunch into Experlogix, and we're going to take a look at what they've got loaded up. Now, one of the things that I'll point out is that Experlogix gives you the ability to have all of these different categories here on the left-hand side that are what you can do to configure this truck. And the customer may say, well, you know, I'm going to be driving this truck more in a hilly terrain, instead of flat. So once we make that selection, well, what Experlogix does, it makes a recommendation. And it says, we recommend that you get a more powerful engine. This is the engine we recommend. And if they think that's okay, we'll go ahead and say okay. But they may say, you know what, actually I want a more powerful engine. And so let's go ahead and select a different one. And let's select it based on some certain criteria. Maybe they're looking at peak torques that are greater than 2,000. And so now we can go ahead and see the different prices here. We'll go ahead and select one of these items and save it. But now what's happened is Experlogix did another check, and it says, well, the engine is not compatible with the transmission that you selected. And so we're going to go ahead and come down here, and we can see the different transmissions that are available. All of the ones that are grayed out would not work with the engine, but we can see there's two choices here, so we'll offer them one of these items. The error message is now satisfied, and oh, by the way, Eaton is having a promotion right now, so we're going to go ahead and give you a discount on that particular transmission. Okay, so the idea is make it fast, make it easy for the sales rep, have them be able to go through, put some logic associated to this customer. So notice if we try to remove an item, Experlogix actually did a check, and it says, well, wait a minute, this customer is located in Alaska, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that message. So oil pans heaters are required for Alaskan orders. So we're actually looking at specific CRM information to determine a type of rule. Okay. All the time, the salesperson is being updated with information. So at a heads up, they can look and see what their commission is on this deal. They can see, you know, what the cost is. They can see the total weight of the truck. And if they wanted to get into doing some things with pricing, we do give the ability to have some logic around that as well. So as we're going through and putting in percentages of discounts, maybe we get to a point that that's going to require some approval. Okay. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and just save this configuration. But as we're talking to the customer, they say, you know what, I'm kind of wanting to price it out a little bit differently too, so I can compare the two. So the sales rep is going to come in here. They're going to edit the second configuration. And now they can go through and start to say, well, maybe the customer is interested in adding in a sleeper. So we'll go ahead and say, well, 52-inch or a 76-inch, what would it look like if we added that 52-inch? Well, this is now doing an upsell. If they're getting a sleeper, we would recommend that they get a bunk and a refrigerator. So again, guiding the sales rep. Maybe I've never sold a truck in my life, but I'm going to be guided through this process. And now, with the sleeper, we can start adding some storage options. Okay. Maybe they want to look at getting a different transmission. So we'll select this transmission instead. And let's go ahead and take a look at maybe some different color choices. So they maybe want to see what it's going to look like in a blue truck. So we'll go ahead and select our blue swatch. Go back to red. Maybe they want to see, what it looks like with some other details. Now, ultimately, we're going to go ahead and save this. And you'll notice when you click on this home button, it gives you the ability to compare these. And so now, talking to the customer, we can show side by side from every category what was selected and what wasn't. And if you really just want to focus in on what's different about them, you say show the differences. And then we can see additional details just by clicking on the hyperlink. Now, if the customer decided they wanted to stick with this first truck, we're going to go ahead and delete this one from the configuration. We'll close out. It's going to update that quote. We can go ahead and generate the quote in different fashions. So you're going to be hearing from Xpertdoc next. That is another way that we have an integration with Xpertdoc to be able to print a quote. And we can go ahead and take this, and if we needed to, print it. We've now activated this quote. We might want to revise it. We'll go ahead and revise the quote. Relaunch into the configurator, make some changes. Everything is all interactive, very fast, rapid changes that we can do. Save it. And we're back into Dynamics. We're going to activate this quote. And in this time, we're going to go ahead and create the order. The customer is interested in it. We're going to go ahead and win this deal, which ultimately then closes the opportunity. And so now what I've demonstrated is starting it from an opportunity, going through the whole quoting process, giving the customer some choices, converting it to an order. You've got that complete end-to-end solution all within Dynamics. So to kind of wrap things up, in summary, we want to make sure that your sales reps are doing fast and accurate quoting. Make sure that's an integrated solution. So we do support Dynamics 365 sales. We also offer it as an on-premise solution for Dynamics CRM. We want to make sure that your salespeople are happy in their jobs because they're going to be able to do less admin work and really do what they're good at. And your customers are going to be happy because they're going to get accurate quotes in a very timely fashion.
And
so
we
with
are at
that,
time.
yep, I am done.
Great, thank you, Gwen. And our next presenter is Erwin Bugenhout of Xpertdoc. Erwin, I am going to give you control.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, you should be able to see my screen right now.
We do.
Let's make it a little bit larger. So there you go. Yeah, what Xpertdoc is all about is indeed documents, because when we look at the earlier presentations we saw today, we saw this great presentation around taxation where you can calculate your tax amount, and then we saw this another awesome presentation and a great demo that we saw there about CPQ and getting your products all configured, your quote fully configured, getting your pricing right, and then in the end, a document has to come out of that. And so this is kind of a great build-up. I don't know what I'm building up to. So the guy from QGate, he's going to be warned that he's going to have a tough job topping all of this build-up, right? So in the end, there's going to be a document, and the document has to be shared with the customer, and then in the end, the transaction is going to come out of that. So that's kind of the build-up of this presentation here today. So Xpertdoc Technologies is actually a company that has focused on that document part. We have been around for about 2 decades, and the focus has always been on document-centric processes, trying to optimize document-centric processes. We're not a company with like 50 different add-ons that we sell. It's just documents, making sure you can generate or create better documents in a faster way. That's what it's all about. We do that with about 60 in-house, what we call experts. We forget the E in experts as opposed to the guys from Experlogix. We call them expert in documents, and they're on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. There was an acquisition earlier this year where Xpertdoc actually bought Xpertdoc, which was one of the most important options really around document generation for Microsoft Dynamics 365, and that allowed us to also have a presence in Europe. Over there. There are about 100, a little bit over 100 reselling partners adding value to what we bring to the ecosystem. If you look at customers, I think we're somewhere between the 500 and 1,000 mark right now. Okay, so we have some badges over here as well, not doing that bad. Once again, if we look at the build-up today, you saw that, well, in the end, you probably would want to generate a document that contains your calculated tax amounts and your validated addresses, and that contains all your product configurations and maybe those nice blue and red trucks. Those pictures need to be in that quotation, maybe side by side to kind of let people or give people a visual choice as to which truck they want to buy if you really want to buy a truck on paper. To do that in Dynamics, you're left with a couple of options out of the box, which would most probably to run a report. That's what we saw in the earlier demo by Experlogix, and I think that report was probably an SSRS report, so a SQL Server reporting services report. Now the trouble with SSRS, which is definitely a good way to generate a document or to create a document template, is that you basically need to be a developer to be able to create such a template. So that's not too easy. The other option that Microsoft is offering you straight out of the box is the Word document generation that's included as from, I think, 2015 or 2016. I think it's 2016 onwards. And the problem with that is that in terms of functionality, it's just too limited. So there's a gap that we kind of fill in sweetly, we think, where we bring a very powerful solution to generate documents, which is yet very easy to use, very easy to manage, and very easy to integrate. I'm not going to read the entire slide over here. I'm going to take it to the next one. Basically, what it does is accelerate the document creation process where you can really bring the generation of a document for the end user down to just one single click, and that one single click can not only generate your document, it can also send it out via email. It can launch an e-signing activity where the other party basically signs the document electronically using DocuSign or e-sign Live, which is now called, I think, OneSpan Sign, recent name change there, using other signing technologies like Certify, SureSign, and so on and so forth. So that's an option. We have integrations with those parties. You can save it into SharePoint. You can create a note that contains your document as an attachment into Dynamics, and so on and so forth. So that entire process can be just driven by that single click. So that's I think it's, in terms of productivity, that's pretty powerful. It leverages your data, and the good thing here is that you can combine data from Dynamics, across Dynamics. You can go as many levels of relationship deep in the hierarchy, or you can even include data that's coming from outside of Dynamics. That's what we do also in the integrations that we have with Experlogix. But you can actually go beyond Dynamics, bring data in, and pull that into the document that you want to produce. You can assure, obviously that's an important one as well, you can assure consistency across all your outbound document flows. So not only consistency in the terms or in the way that your documents look or the content of your documents, but also in the procedure, in the process that you follow as you deliver and store your documents. And then the most important point, that's what I said when I was referring to the SSRS reporting, is that you really empower business user and reduce dependence on the IT department. Okay, so let's get out of this PowerPoint presentation and let's get into some live action over here. So basically how it works once again, we're looking at a dynamics quote. We've seen quite a few dynamics quotes this afternoon. So this is basically our button, so the Smart Flows button. It's available on the Unified UI as well. So what it actually does is if you click it, it will bring up an interface. Oh. This is going to be a demo, like Kate's demo, where the button doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So there you go. It brings up a selection screen where you can actually select the flow that you want to run, the document generation and delivery flow that you want to run. And you could say, for instance, hey, I want to email a quote with external data and some user input, and I want to do that. And that's what we're going to do. And we get some questions here that we can ask, that we can answer. Like, for instance, hey, do you want to start your quotation that you want to send out, that document, you want to start that with an alternative first paragraph. And we can do that. We can type something like, hey, I am very pleased to send you this quotation. So there you go. You can choose whether or not we want to introduce or use product descriptions. Those will be taken from Dynamics. They can be Word documents, PDF documents, can be taken from SharePoint, can be taken from Experlogix as well, the pictures and stuff like that. Also your full product details, they can be pulled in here. And then you can choose whether or not, in this case, you want to go for the short, the medium, or the long version of the terms and conditions. Now let's keep the red tape a little bit short here and go for the short version. Just hit next, and then we're collecting data from Dynamics, and as the data gets collected, you'll see what's happening. You're actually, the progress bar will guide you through the process, and we'll produce not only the document, but also an email that is actually sent out to the person that the quote is intended for, and you can go into that and have a look at it as we're loading up the email. So there you go. This is going out from me to Renee Valdez, who is our quote contact in this case, and as you can see, the subject line can be personalized to the quote here. Could also be your quotation or dear Renee and so on and so forth. You can actually put it in the subject line to personalize it as well. The email is personalized. You can actually put the table with the quote products into the email that you send out, and it can also contain a signature. By the way, no worries here. The picture is actually there. If you hit see the full content, you'll be able to see that it has this beautiful picture over here. So that's the email. Obviously, it's all about the attachment. So if we open that up, then we'll see the actual document that we have produced. It's a PDF document in this case, and it's been sent out to the person who wanted to receive a quote from us. Okay, and it starts with, I'm very pleased to send you this quotation. And there's the same nice picture over there. You can see we can format dates any way we want to format them. This is a table which is interesting as well. This is your typical document table or quotation table with the line items. Interesting here is that, for instance, it says sufficient stock, and this is where the additional content that is not, or the additional data that is not in CRM actually comes in. We basically are comparing this, the line items from CRM in this demo example with data from a product database from where you can actually see the stock amounts that are available. And if you look at the template, which is totally built in Microsoft Word and is very straightforward and everyone can do it really, this is basically how that looks. We see sufficient stock or insufficient stock. Those are the two optional values that we put in here. And if you look at how that's built up, basically double click it over here. This is how you build that condition. So we're just going to use or check whether a field has a specific value. Which field? Well, the quantity field of our quote, and we're going to use that as number and say less than or equal to. And we're going to compare that with the quantity in stock field of another data set that's linked to this quotation template, which is super easy to do. We do the same thing here for the insufficient stock, and that's how those items get pulled into the document as we go. So let's take it back to the document, as we scroll down, what else do you see? You see discounts then get calculated. You see a grand total over here, and these are the detailed product specifications that we have pulled in as well. So these are actually, in this case, they are docx's, but they can be PDFs, HTML content that we can pull in to the generated document as we go. Okay, scrolling all the way down, what else do we see? We see the short version of the general terms and conditions that we send out. Okay. So you can take it far beyond what I just, Jason, did you want to intro me there?
We are at time. I was getting ready to tell you.
Okay. So I'm just gonna close off by saying that this is just an example of one process where you just simply email a quotation out to the customer. You can do quite a lot of more complex things like comparing or looking at the total amount of the quote, and then based on the total amount, we'll send it through an approval process first and then send it off or send it straight to the customer. So quite a lot of options there. That's what I have.
All right, thank you very much, Erwin. I am going to pass control over to Ryan Pennant now of QGate.
Thanks, Jason.
All right.
All right. Wow. Thanks, everybody. Some great products we've seen today, obviously, from my colleagues. So I just want to say great job, guys. You can all now breathe easier. Good afternoon, and thanks for your time. I'm Ryan Pennant, North American Sales Manager for QGate Software. And today we'll be discussing our solution, Paribus Interactive, which uses its intelligent fuzzy search capability within Dynamics 365 to identify potential duplicate records and make users hopefully more efficient at the same time. All right? So before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of background about QGate Software. We've been in the CRM space for about 20 years, specifically with Microsoft for about 10. We are a CRM partner selling and implementing Dynamics throughout Europe, but we're also an ISV, selling add-on solutions across the world, if you will. And we offer two core ISV technologies, data de-duplication and telephone integration. And the three products we offer are Paribus Interactive, which is what we're going to discuss today, Paribus Discovery, which is a bulk data de-duplication product, if you will, the cure. And we also have a CTI solution, IntelliCTI, which integrates Microsoft Dynamics with your phone system, so we can monitor all inbound and outbound calls and capture all the metrics and notes and so forth. But today we're going to really talk about Paribus Interactive. But before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about data quality, especially around duplicate data. So it's a very important product because it could have a major financial impact on your business. Recently, Gartner polled businesses across North America, Europe, and Asia, and found that 75% admitted that having defective data had a negative financial impact on their business. As well as a recent Experian poll found that 88% felt defective data had a 12% impact on revenue. And Gartner's also found that 60% of all duplicate data in your database is typically from end users, right, adding stuff. And then, of course, poor data quality leads to poor user adoption, and duplicate data leads to increased marketing costs, right, as well as inaccurate reporting. And if your reporting and dashboards are not accurate, then your managers are making decisions based off faulty data, which is probably not a very good business strategy, if you will. And finally, GDPR. If you guys are not familiar with GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation that just became in effect last month in Europe, basically it has many provisions, but one in particular gives the person the right to be forgotten, if you will, removed from your database. And as part of that, let's say John Smith called you and said, hey, I want out of your database. But there's a duplicate Jonathan Smith that maybe you haven't found yet. So if that's the case, you are not in compliance and could actually be in for a hefty fine. So these are some very big issues in terms of duplicate data, data quality in general, so it can be very costly. But let's look at it, if you will, from a user's daily struggle with duplicate data in your database. All right, so let's say I'm on the phone with a customer, Bob Smith, and I need to update his contact record. So I search for him in CRM, and as you can see, I get a few more Bob Smiths than probably I bargained for. Now, this is obviously very frustrating because now I have to potentially open up each record to find out, which Bob Smith did I need to update. So this is a huge time waster, right? and of course it causes fragmentation of your data. Looking at it, perhaps maybe I'm typing in a Robert Smith, right? Not knowing that he's actually entered as Bob Smith. So in this case, again, I see no results, right? So naturally, if he's not found, I'll have to go ahead and add him, right? Which is going to take me several minutes to do, required fields, address, all that good stuff, right? So, but if he's already here, this is a huge waste of time. I don't want to have to add a record if I don't need to, right? So as a user, I want a solution that saves me from having to navigate through multiple Bob Smiths. And I also want a way to see all of the variations of Bob that might also exist, right? So I'm not needlessly wasting my time navigating and or adding records. I think my manager would be pretty happy as well. I'm not wasting time. So this is where Paribus Interactive comes in, which includes a global fuzzy search tool and duplicate detection so that users will ultimately save time and, of course, will help prevent duplicates from being entered. So really, how can Paribus Interactive help? Well, I think what you're going to see here in a moment, it really increases user efficiency by allowing some tools that make searching and finding records much more effective. And it's not just designed for those who might add records, but through the solution that's added into CRM, all users can basically benefit, even if they're just searching on records. And we do support all the major versions of Dynamics, on-prem, online, partner-hosted, and the installation is very simple, about a 30-minute install, and away you go. So how does it work? The key really is its matching engine. Paribus Interactive provides best-in-breed fuzzy logic. We are allowed to search across accounts, contacts, and leads, and it matches both phonetics and misspellings, synonyms and abbreviations, sequence variations, and even data segmentation. Okay? So let's see how this works actually live within Paribus. So in this case, I'm going to go start here on an account detail view, list view, and let's say a person calls from JAE, or Jupiter Astronomy Equipment Corporation, and maybe they're interested in one of our products. So I go ahead and I type in JAE to see if they're here, and I get no JAE accounts. Or maybe I want to go into a contact and he tells me his name is Rob Dixon. So I'll attack it from that angle. Again, do a search in Rob Dixon, I get nothing. So no results are found. So in this case, most users are going to go ahead and begin creating the record. Not because they really want to, but because they think they have to, right? It's not here, I'll go ahead and add it. So I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 minutes potentially adding JAE and a Rob Dixon, right? But this is where Paribus Interactive comes in. So Paribus Interactive actually is available right here through the sales menu. I can go ahead and click on Paribus and choose Enhanced Search, which basically brings up our search panel. And I can search on a person's name or even an account, and I can even add some filtering if I want through other means. But in this case, using the example I just did, I'm going to type in JAE and do a quick search. And it will look across contacts, leads, and accounts. And you can see here that I actually did find 6 accounts that might match. So if I click on this guy, it'll bring up the results. And you can see here I have a whole lot more than I ever found in the out-of-the-box CRM. I've got JAE with spaces, JAE with periods, the JAE Corp, Jupiter Astronomy Equipment, and Jupiter Astronomy even with Jupiter misspelled, right? So you can see it provides all the information I need, a quick review here on what we call these little data cards, right? Now I can also do this here from a contact perspective like we did before. Rob Dixon I searched on before, had no results, and you can see that Paribus Interactive will find 11 matching contacts and as well as leads. And if I click on the contacts here again, through these configurable data cards, I can actually decide what information that you want through some configuration. So if there's some other fields, even potentially custom fields that you want to see here, that will make it easier for you to identify whether or not this is the record you're looking for, I can do that right here. Now let's say this person was Bob Dixon I'm looking for. Hey, this looks like the guy, right? Rob Dixon, Bob Dixon, he said he was in Tampa. I could go to that record by clicking on Go To, or if I want to stay here in case, making sure that I keep these results open, I can click on that Review, and it will pop up a separate screen, as you see here, right into his contact detail, and I can verify whether or not this, in fact, is Bob Dixon. All right. Now, let's say in another case, Bob Dixon had called me and said, hey, Ryan, I got some literature from you. I want to be put on your Do Not Contact list, okay? Or in the GDPR world, I want to be forgotten. So I could go in here and update the record and say, do not contact Bob, right? Great. But maybe I missed another variation of him. And in fact, if you can see here on a detail form, Paribus has actually got what we call an inline search, which sits right on top here and shows me any other matching records for this particular contact I'm already on. And it's pervasive across accounts and contacts and leads, or pretty much anywhere else you want to put it. So if I click on here and see, oh yeah, I've got a Bobby Dixon. So I'll probably want to mark this as do not contact as well as the name Bob Dixon, right? So let's look at a couple other ways that Paribus Interactive can actually help the user, if you will. All right, so I'll close that up. Let's talk about lead qualification real fast. In the world of lead qualification, you know, usually you're in here, you've got a lead, and you want to make sure that, you know, if you qualify it, it will, of course, create a contact typically, right? But maybe you're a conscientious user, and I hope you all are. At least I try to be. And I go in here, and I first want to look to see if there's a contact named Billy Hyatt. So we'll go ahead and type in Billy Hyatt here. That's if I can actually spell, right? Or type for that matter. And I hit Tab. And you can see, of course, there's no Billy Hyatt, which you probably assumed there wouldn't be. I can type in JAE, which we know CRM can't find JAE already. But again, I'll go through here and just make sure. And so in this case, if I were to go, oh yeah, let's go ahead and click qualify, it will create a Billy Hyatt contact. But what if he's already in the system? And again, right here on the lead detail form, I've got Paribus Interactive here at the top, and it's showing me that there's two possible contacts for this Billy Hyatt. So I click on the two possible contacts, and I can say, oh yeah, well, actually this William Hyatt from Jupiter Astronomy Equipment is my guy. Again, I could have gone to review or gone to go to, but in this case, if I choose select, you'll notice here up in the area, it will actually populate the lookups for me. So if I click on select, everything's done for me. Now when I click qualify, it will just associate this lead with an existing contact in the system and will not create a duplicate, okay? So one last thing, of course, and that's adding records. So if I were to add a contact or an account, what have you, this is just your simple new contact form, but it does inject this little panel at top here that allows me to type in Rob Dixon, hit search, and of course it will present me with any duplicates. So obviously if this person does exist in the system, why would I want to continue adding it, creating a duplicate, and more importantly, wasting any additional time, okay? So let's wrap this up. Last but not least here, I think ultimately you can see the benefits across the organization, right? Sales and service, it provides a more efficient user experience. It reduces data entry, which everybody loves, and less duplicates to navigate through. From a marketing standpoint, there's a cost saving by reducing the volume of contacts that you're marketing to, i.e. the dupes, and so of course you have better targeting. And of course, management's happy because users are more efficient and they have more accurate reporting to help make better decisions. So I hope you can see that Paribus Interactive will help improve the user experience and prevent duplicates at the same time. So if you're interested in trying Paribus, you can sign up for a free trial on our website. Just search web for Paribus Interactive, where you can also download product tours and brochures. And we can also offer you a personalized demo if you like, or feel free to reach out to me with any questions at the email and numbers provided. And thanks again for your time today.
Great, thank you, Ryan, and thank you to all our presenters today. Really great job, and I really enjoy how the solutions really do kind of build on each other and create some really interesting possibilities. We're going to go on to Q&A now. I'm going to put up just some contact information as we do get started on that, so you can note that down if you do want to follow up with anybody. A few questions have already come in, but please do enter yours as well into the Q&A block, and we'll get to as many as we have time for. So the first question that I have here is actually for Experlogix. How can you expose the Experlogix product in a self-service portal?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Experlogix can be exposed a couple different ways. We work with the Microsoft customer and partner portal, as well as some other ISV solutions such as eSanta eCorporation, e-commerce, I can't even talk today, e-commerce, as well as Dynamic Web.
All right, thank you. Next question, Kate, this one is an Avalara question. It's asking, if we're not sure where we should be collecting tax, what should we do?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So you can do one of two things. You can talk to your CPA and, of course, have them work with you to understand your nexus requirements. or you can use Avalara's Tax Advisory Services team. We have a team that's dedicated to helping you and assisting you with your tax needs. We can do a nexus study for you, and then along with that, we can also get you registered in new states as needed.
Okay. The next question is for Erwin, asking, are there any plans to integrate with Microsoft Flow regarding Xpertdoc?
Yeah, let's unmute first before I start talking. That always works better. Yeah, we do have plans to do that. Actually, we're working on it right now. You can, by the way, start a flow from a Microsoft Dynamics workflow that's already in the product, so you can do that. So to automate it, and in the near future, you'll also be able to start the execution of a smart flow from Microsoft Flow. So a lot of flow going on here. I hope everybody still can set these things apart, or can keep all these flows apart. But the good thing is we'll just integrate with everything, and then everything becomes a flow in the end.
All right, great. A question for Ryan, asking who is needed to support the Paribus solution?
Yeah, from an installation standpoint, like I said, it's about 30 minutes. So we would want your CRM admin on board, and because we're going to install a solution. And then ultimately, you guys are going to tell us where you want it plumbed. So if you do want it on your opportunities or leads, if you don't use one of those, we won't bother putting it. So it's simply a solution. Our team will go through with your CRM admin and make sure that it's on the forms that you want configured correctly. That's it. And if you wanted to remove it, it's simply uninstall the solution and away you go.
All right. Question has come in a couple different forms here, so I think we can open it up to everyone to have a chance to answer. But can you elaborate on licensing for your products? And if you don't mind, I'd like to just give this one to everyone. So Kate, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So Avalara, are you specifically talking about pricing model?
Yeah, well, the question was elaborate on licensing.
Oh, licensing. Okay, yeah. So the way our licensing works is it's not a user-based subscription. It's actually based on the volume of the transactions that you perform with Avatax. So, so in the cases of Avatax, that's the way it works. For returns, it's the number of returns we file on your behalf, or the number of exemption certificates we manage. So it really is volume-based, and you get a volume discount as you do more volume. So that allows us to support all the way from a small single-state business up to a global enterprise-level company.
All right, thank you. And Gwen, how about you?
Yep, ours is licensed by user. So if they're wanting to do a subscription-based, then it's going to be a per user per month annual contract. If it's an on-premise solution, they purchase the named user license and have annual maintenance on top of that. And then for Portal, if they are wanting to extend it to their dealers, customers, distributors, external of CRM, we do have a Portal license.
All right, Erwin?
Yeah, once again, we're kind of follow up pretty well because Kate said it's volume based, and then Gwen said it's user based. Well, ours is basically a combination of both. So we're looking at we basically made a number of packages containing users, a certain amount of users, and a certain volume of documents that you can produce on a monthly basis, and that's basically how our pricing works. In terms of those users, that can be a subset of your full CRM user count or Dynamics 365 user count, so it does not have to be everybody who has a Dynamics license. And there are the different options in terms of deployment. So you can deploy it on premises. You can obviously deploy it in private cloud, and that's also the SaaS option where you basically have your monthly subscription that you pay, and you don't have to worry about the deployments at all.
All right, thank you. And Ryan, you want to take this one?
Yep. So it is, there's kind of two components. There's both the user and the amount of data that you, or number of records you have in CRM, if you will. So it's a minimum of 10 users, but you only need to license the users that actually will use it. So if you have 300 users, but only 50 really need to use this, managing records and what have you, just license those 30. There's a minimum of 12-month subscription. It's $5 a user. And then the data component, because of the way in which we have to search through the data and store some within an Azure cloud, basically the data component, if you up to 50,000 records, 0 to 50,000 records, there's no fee at all. 50 to 250,000 records, you're looking at about $75 a user. Excuse me, not a user, sorry. That's a one-time cost. So you have the $5 per user, whatever many users you want to use. Then if you have up to 50,000 records, there's no fee. 50 to 250,000 records, it's $75 a month, flat base. And 250 to 500,000 records, you're looking at 150. 500,000 to 2 million records, 375 per month, one time. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Well, that is the last question we appear to have right now. So we're going to begin wrapping up. To everyone in the audience, thanks for your attention today. There's a survey that will pop up when you depart. We appreciate any feedback you can offer us about your experience today. Our presenters always appreciate that as well. I also want to thank our presenters, Kate, Scott, Erwin, Ryan. Thank you for taking the time and for showing off your company's solutions today. Much appreciated. With that, we are going to wrap up. Have a great day, everybody.